I want to do the signs now, but I just want to just say that obviously we have these 12 signs, and in Vedic astrology also we use 7 planets and the north and south node of the moon, which are Rahu, Ketu. So we use the two luminaries, Sun, Moon, and then we have the planets Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. So the 7 main planets and the shadow planets. We come into this world because of Rahu. Rahu holds our desires, whatever we wish for now, even if we don't get it in this lifetime, we get it in the next life. So that saying, careful what you wish for, is so true. And then obviously wherever Ketu is in our chart is what we bring talent from our previous life, is things that we already know. So it's not a coincidence that a child gets in front of a piano and starts playing. They have had some form of connection with that piano, not necessarily that piano, but in a previous life they were sort of dexterous and talented in that department, creative. And sometimes for all of us, it's really easy to stay with things that we know and feel confident in. So this is why we could spend too much time with our Ketu and be fearful of where Rahu is, because it's where we have no knowledge of. So we are like a baby in that department. So hence the reason we stay with what we know, status quo, whereas really exploring Rahu in our chart is where eventually we'll get much more happiness and satisfaction. So this is, I would always say that. So if you have like Rahu, Ketu in your first and seventh axis, Rahu in your first house means you're here to find out about yourself, to get yourself evolved, and learn your journey and explore what you are about. And don't worry about relationships. In previous lives, you've had lots of relationships. You've conquered that, so it's all about them. But of course, these people are always wanting to be in relationships because that is what they know best. And they lose themselves in relationships. So they actually can have no knowledge of themselves until they get a little bit older. The other way is the same as well. So there could be people who've got Ketu on their ascendant and Rahu in their seventh house, and really they're here to explore other people, working with others, business partners, relationships, but they just want to be just like all about self-obsessed about what I want, and they forget about their relationships and their partners, which is really difficult for the partners, obviously. So so this is something that we want to know. So I have done a video about each of the planets. I will upload them as well, so you can learn it's very important to know about the planets and knowing which planets work with which planets. So for example, I always put them into 2 groups because I think Sun, Moon, Mars and Jupiter work really well together, whereas Mercury, Venus and Saturn work together really, really well. And I always find that the nodes work better with that group, although Ketu could, I would probably put more like that really, 2 groups. It's always best to exclude those really, but I find Rahu works really well with Mercury and Venus for some reason. I guess it's just a playful, shadowy planet. That's the reason why. So I will also sort of urge you to watch those videos because it gives you an idea about indications of every single planet. And then we go on from there. And what I would also say, each planet rules a particular chakra as well. And working on those planets, if they're weak in your chart, will actually help you. Like Mercury being weak, the person can't express self and use their intellect properly. So by actually working on Mercury, by opening your throat chakra, you can express yourself much easier and much better. So these are very, very important. So now, really, once you learn about the planets, the next thing is learning about the all of the ascendants and seeing how, because each ascendant has obviously the 12 houses of the zodiac in their chart, and the planets that they work with really, really well, and the houses that they work in really well. And that kind of, again, colours your chart a bit more, so you get to know yourself a bit more. So if you're Aries ascendant and say Mars, which rules your first house, also rules your eighth house. So you've got to see that an Aries ascendant can actually cause their own accidents and sudden changes in their life because they are impulsive and do things really fast. That's the nature of Mars and nature of Aries. So this is how you can actually, even with a blank chart, you can read that. So once you know the ascendant, you can just say, like, somebody who is Aries ascendant will look for a beautiful wife or husband because their seventh house is Libra, is owned by Venus. Venus is obviously beauty, so they're very much attracted to looks of somebody. They also, Venus also rules their second house of family and resources. So because Venus rules their seventh house and second house, it just means that they gain money and resources through their wife or partner, and they will be very kind and gentle and sweet towards their family because Venus rules their second house. And you can then see that, and Venus and actual Mars are kind of neutral towards each other. They're not, they don't work badly together. So you can see that as well. So, and then the third house is ruled by is Gemini, and Mercury rules their third house and their sixth house. So they're difficult houses, third and sixth houses. So straight away you know that that is not a good planet for Aries ascendant, because if they were friendly towards each other, they would be ruling better houses. So what that means actually, because Mercury and Mars are not friendly at all, this is a really good, normally it's a quite difficult thing when you have Mars in Mercury signs or vice versa. So you know that because Aries ascendant does everything really fast, their speech, which is their third house, is always going to be very, the way they communicate is can be harsh and can be quick without thinking, because Aries ascendant is impulsive, doesn't think before it does things, so you can actually send a text very quickly without actually thinking, why did I do that? And then obviously it's also third house is house of friendships, so they could find that their friends could be their enemies because Mercury also rules their sixth house of enemies, so they have to be careful with what they say to their friends because they could become their enemies as well. And sometimes because they do say things quickly and without thinking, they could cause themselves issues, illnesses, because that's again, you know, it's action that they did that can cause enemies, and as a result can make them unhealthy. So, and you know that Mars is actually debilitated in the fourth house. This is a very strange thing because Moon and Mars are normally friendly towards each other, but Mars is all energy and is quite masculine, and Cancer is very feminine, very emotional. So they actually could have issues with their mum, or could be very emotional about their mum, you know, so very sensitive about their mum as well. So it could be either way. The fifth house, their father is source of intelligence to them because they sun is the indicator of father. So and rules their fifth house of intelligence because they could have a father who's intelligent. And the moment they're born, their father, because Sun is exalted in their first house, the moment they're born, it actually gives rises the father's status in the community. And if we go now to the ninth house is ruled by ninth houses and 12th house is ruled by Jupiter. So they will have very good teachers, but they also will have losses because of their teachers and people who give them guidance. So they got to be careful about the advice they receive, and use their judgment properly about what sort of teachers they have in life, role models. And and they could sometimes, like lose money as well because of their higher education. 12th house being losses and expenses. And then we got 10th and 11th house, ruled by Saturn. Saturn and Mars don't get on, but it's really funny how they are actually Aries ascendant. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, house of karma and action that you do in the world. So, and that's because Saturn, Capricorn, particularly, is very structured. It's got very, very firm foundations, and an impulsive planet like Mars, for example, needs that stability and constrictions of that sign to actually focus them. And it's a 10th house, and Mars always gets direction strength, which means that makes the planet work really, really well in the 10th house and 11th house as well. And but they could also be, because there's always a coldness about Saturn. So although they work really hard, Saturn, Mars, is always a very, very sort of hard-working individual. It could be dissatisfaction there as well, because just too much work, not enough play. Feel like it's too sort of rigid. There is something about Capricorn that can be a bit rigid. And obviously you put Mars there, it's really hard working, and also 11th house of gains. 11th house is second houses from the 10th house. So it means that what you gain from your work, again, it could be a little bit like restrictive as well. So, and also it's, so it could be a little bit of dissatisfaction from their big groups of friends as well, because again, it's ruled by Saturn, and it doesn't get on very well with Saturn. So there you are. So you can actually, even without any planets, you can, once you get an ascendant and who rules that sign, and see which planet is friendly with them, which one isn't, and the indications of that house, you can just do a reading just purely on that. And then once you start introducing planet by planet, you can see so much. It's amazing. So I urge you to do that, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.